All right. We are LIVE. Good evening. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. Looking for an ink pen and I don't see one. Good evening, my Facebook family. Good evening, my YouTube family. Good evening, Twitter. Good evening, everyone. I see you starting to chime in. If you can hear me okay, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you are here. You can always put messages over in the chat to talk to us. I have a very special guest this evening, Mr. Karl Smith of the Voter Education Project. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining me. Talking about economics and talking about politics and talking about a lot of these things. This is a hard conversation and it's not easily digestible. A lot of this stuff, Karl. So we have to have conversations that kind of help people to understand how this all works together and how we all have to work together in order for things to change in this country. So tonight we're going to talk about how reparations helps the U.S. economy. This is a question I think so many people don't believe is, they don't see any truth in it.
Right.
So,
And it's not just a moral thing. Obviously, it's right to make a wrong, or right to wrong, or right or wrong, but also it's economically smart because basically when people have been left behind and they're not really contributing to the economy in the way they could be, then we all suffer. I mean, the economy is smaller, and we can fix that.
And you just said a mouthful in just a couple sentences. The economy is smaller when we don't have people participating in it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, poor people kind of suck as customers. And so, or if somebody doesn't make a lot of money, they may have a lot of needs, but they don't have money to buy what they need, the products and services. But with more education, more, financial backing and their health and just opportunities, when we create those things for people, then basically they end up making a lot more money over the lifetime. And that speeds up the economy, creates a bigger economy, but it also creates a lot more tax revenue. So, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk, about today, how these are actually investments that do pay back and pay off. And, versus, some of the things that the Republicans do and so on.
Yeah, you said another mouthful, Karl. Tax revenue. Like, I don't think people understand that when this money is, however reparation comes, this becomes, people are not putting money under their mattresses and sticking it in socks and holding on to it. They're spending it.
Right. Yeah. When money goes in the bottom of the economy in various ways, and one of the things I'll talk about is our basic public investments. That money goes, if it's a lot of money at the bottom of the economy, goes right back out the door. It's not like it gets stuck there. It's not like I said, it's not in their mattress. It's spent in those local businesses, and then it's spent, then those businesses with more customers and more money, they hire and expand, and that creates more tax revenues and creates more customers and money. And guess what? That next businesses. So, who did we really help? That when we educate people, when we provide, assistance, or helping them get, better health care and infrastructure in their communities and safety and all these things. Who did we really help? Just those direct people, or the business after business after business and person after person after person that money cycles through, through the year, creating, basically tax event after tax event, state, local, and national taxes. So, this is what speeds up the economy. These are investments.
Mm-hmm. And another word, you said tax revenue, and now you're saying investment.
Right.
Explain that, Karl, please.
Well, there's, like when we invest in the right things, and we invest in people's education, an educated person is going to create far more tax revenue, far more revenue or income for themselves over decades. So that's an investment, and we don't, it's not like we have to come up with all the money to help everybody all at once up front. It's just that we have to kickstart these things. So we start educating people, that grows the economy. we improve healthcare of people. We get people more covered by healthcare. And so that improves the economy. We do more research. We build more infrastructure. We have safer communities and community development, and we improve our safety nets. All of these things, and also reparations. When we fix, when we create a fairer system, more people benefit, and more people, and not only the people benefit, but the economy benefits, because now they actually have the money then to do more things.
He says the poorest people spend the most money.
Well, that's, they spend it the quickest, for sure. And so it doesn't stay in their pockets for very long. Actually, I have a slide on that we'll get to. But the poorest people, they don't, so they spend money quickly, but they don't have a lot to spend. They have far more needs, far more needs for services and products and stuff than they have money for. And not just, people in poverty, but also kind of in, through the bottom part of the middle class. They're, a lot of times working two jobs. They make, very poor, meager salaries. In fact, like even like the minimum wage, which kind of sets the base for salaries or for incomes and so on, has actually been going downhill. The Republicans have been not raising the minimum wage for year after year. And that's, in real terms, that's actually a cut year after year. And, something that's like 3 decades ago, if you put that into today's money adjusted for inflation, we'd be at 11 something an hour at this point. So that's not really that far off of $15 an hour, where we'd like to get people to as a base, because that's a meager income, that livable income where you don't need a lot of extra assistance and everything. So we'll reduce people's dependence on other help and stuff by basically paying them a decent wage. And some people say, oh, that'll kill jobs, that'll or there's two arguments. One is it'll kill jobs, and then the other is that basically people, if we double the minimum wage, well, then products and services will double in price. That's not true. Product and service prices, or the wages, are generally a small part of product and service prices. So yes, prices may go up a little bit, but those bottom wages will go up far more than that. And so they'll have real increase in spending power. And then the people that were making 15 an hour, now maybe they won't make 30 an hour. They won't double. They'll make 27 or 20, something in the high 20s. And then as it goes on up, it'll continue to have that ripple effect upward. So it'll really improve the wages of the people at the lower part of the economy. So the other argument was that it's going to kill jobs. Well, so there's two things to look at there. One is, what's the most important thing to businesses, and that's customers' money. So when they have more customers' money, they hire and expand. It actually has created what we've seen in this country after World War II, and we did all this for skilled workers, and the same arguments applied back then or were made. It didn't kill skilled workers' jobs. It actually created more, because there was more people that could buy those cars and buy those things. And the second thing is look at other countries that don't pay a livable wage, like Mexico. Their skilled laborers are in the working poor. They might be at the upper end of the working poor, but they're in the working poor. And so basically, if those people got paid better, they probably wouldn't come here, looking for better wages and stuff. They would actually stay in Mexico and other countries. But basically, Mexico, they don't invest as heavily in their basic public investments, and they also don't pay, or what I call value, all of their workers, which drives up or puts more money at the bottom of the economy. It expands the economy. So their economies aren't to the level that our economy, was or is.
So let's talk about the slides, because I think people are very curious about this slide presentation we have up. So how bottom-up economics work? Because we realize top-down doesn't. It stays at the top. So how does bottom-up economics work?
And let me give you a little quick 3-pointer on why trickle-down doesn't work. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds like, the GOP will say, oh, we're going to put more money, give more money to job creators. Well, that sounds good. Then they'll go out and create more jobs, right? Well, they don't. And there's actually 3 points. One is that it's really all about the speed of money in the economy, and they, when they get more money, they look at a bunch of different investments, and they might pick one or pick another. It doesn't go right out the door, bang. It gets back in the economy, but slowly. And also, if you have a lot of money, you don't tend to have a lot of immediate needs. So you look around, kick tires, and you may or may not buy anything. If you don't have a lot of money, on the other hand, and you get some more, basically there's a need that you're going to fill that day or very, very quickly, or sometimes with the internet and stuff, things are, sometimes out the door 5 minutes later or whatever. So, theirs basically represents speeding up the economy. The third thing, the reason that trickle down doesn't work, I mean, it actually slows the economy instead of speeding up the economy, is that if you have a business and, you hire or you expand, you want to grow your business, and you get some more money. Basically, if I invest in my business, and I hire people, or I buy equipment or whatever, building, the tax rate, either current or those are expenses of the company, or I'm either going to expense that or going to depreciate it over time. So the tax rate on that is 0. So a lower tax rate, income tax rate for a business, is actually a reason to take money out of the company and not leave it in the company. Mm-hmm. So that's why you see corporations buying back stocks and other things instead of just going out and hire. What drives businesses to actually invest, in the company and expansion of the company is more customers with more money. So we've got to get, that basic principle, more people to understand that basic principle. It's not having more money, that drives your investment. It's expecting customers to be there with more money, that drives that investment. And then your business plans, it's easier to go raise money. You have to borrow money or whatever. You can justify it, justify that investment if you can show that there's customers as far. And obviously, if you have more customers' money, you don't need to raise as much money, which also makes it a bit better. And then there's some other things we can get into in terms of like supply side economics versus demand side.
We're gonna take it in bite size.
So that'll be another discussion. We'll talk about supply side versus demand side, and why we really need to get away from this whole idea that we have to worry about the supply side anymore. We really have to worry about the demand side, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So where would you like to go with this slide? So how?
All right.
Bottom up
so we'll start. Plowing down through the slides, because like I said, these arguments, or this model here explains things behind our both our basic public investments, and why we need a fair system, why we need we need to value all of our workers, and and where we've done wrongs, where we can write those things, not just as the morally right thing to do, but also as the economically smart thing to do. So let me get over and synchronize my side over here too. All right. So basically, the first thing to consider is, there's necessary conditions for our people and for our businesses. Just like, like your car has necessary conditions, for it to work well. You can't just have good tires or just have a good engine, right? I mean, you can't have, or a good gas tank, or drivetrain, good compartment. You've got to have all of those things to have a decent car, or else you just have a good engine that you can't go anywhere, with. And so that's not a very good car. So our people need certain things, and then also our businesses need those, need things to exist. So without those conditions and everything, they don't exist. I think everybody can get, or gets that principle. A farmer, if he doesn't have good rain and good, controlling the insects, and good fertilizers, or the right nutrients and everything for his crops and his or her crops, they're not gonna have a good crop. So anyway, so the first thing we're gonna start out with is thinking about the necessary conditions for our people and businesses. So you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So, and I'll boil these down as basically like our education. Obviously, we all need a good education and stuff that gives us far more opportunities. We need to be healthy. We need research, the research that drives, like our phones and, our computers, a lot of our healthcare and all of this stuff was just started out with basic government research. Infrastructure, obviously, if we can't get anywhere, we can't interact with other places, and we can't do it much, community development, safe communities, if you're constantly worried about your stuff being stolen and so on, where you have to protect your business or, so then you don't get much done. And also our safety nets, because everybody and businesses and other things kind of, get disrupted by something. So those safety nets are really important to get those businesses and people back on their feet. So they're contributing again, not just a morally right thing to do, but also economically smart. Next slide.
Before we go to the next slide, I'm going to make a comment because I think some people are like, well, what does this conversation have to do with how reparations helps the U.S. economy? We have to get beyond the answer to that. We have to get beyond the emotional part of it. Because
right.
I think we get caught up in the because it's the right thing to do, and and it is a debt owed, and I say that boldly. Right. However, we have to have we have to take our conversation and our answers to those kind of questions to another level, and we have to show them the correlation between reparations and doing business in this country, reparations in healthcare, and all these different education, research, all of this. There's other ways to answer why reparations is important in this country, and we have to get beyond the emotional part of it. So I think I wanted to say that, Karl, because I know people are thinking, what does this have to do with it? It's showing us how to answer these questions in other ways.
Right. And it shows that there's, it's that people need in our economy. If you understand the fundamentals of this whole, I'm going to put it in a nutshell here in a minute. And if you understand how all of those things plug into the nutshell, then you can go off in terms of, that people don't immediately understand the economics of reparations, the economics of fighting global warming. So we don't have to, once we sell and show people how this package works, we don't have to go back in and justify and re-justify every little different thing we want to do. Mm-hmm. People will get it. Okay, these are investments, they will pay off. So that's why we need to sort of understand the full, and here's a simple model. There's a way to sort of think about the economy without all the distractions and everything, but just really a few fundamental principles and how those tie together to when we get those right, the country does well. We get those wrong, bad things happen, mm-hmm. And the economy has inertia and stuff. So sometimes those bad things take a little while to kick in, like, Bush, after 8 years of Bush, the economy is going over the cliff, and what the Bush and the GOP at that time, was doing. And now Trump and his GOP is doing things in a much worse way. So we're setting ourselves up for even worse things if we don't, correct those things.
Mm-hmm. And this is new vocabulary in how we answer the question about reparations. Talking about tax revenues, talking about how this is an investment. These are new ways of answering those questions. So I appreciate you. You want me to go to the next slide?
Sure. Okay, so you can ask the same questions, or you look at what businesses need, and guess what? They need the same set of things. They need healthy and educated people to exist. They need infrastructure, community development, research, safe communities, and safety nets. They need all of the same things that our people need. So really, it's kind of a little side point. So is doing more of those things, is that socialism, or is that enabling capitalism? So socialism would be taking your business, or like nationalizing our industries, taking your businesses and property and everything. That's socialism. What these investments do actually is put free enterprise on steroids. Without it, then think of companies. How many companies could really exist without our previous research that we've done? I mean, most of these are high tech companies like Google and Apple and all these places. without the stuff that started, microelectronics and the internet and all this wouldn't exist. So education or safe communities. We can't all have our own police forces and everything, private police forces to protect. It just is so inefficient. And infrastructure, community development. We need all of those things. Businesses need them too. So it's not socialism; it's enabling capitalism.
Let's say that again. It is not socialism. It is enabling capitalism.
Right. Because it'll be a slide later on. Going into why we need more people educated and so on. And right now we actually hire foreign workers to come in and do some of the work that our people aren't prepared to do because we haven't educated them to do this. And that's kind of a shame. Or not kind of a shame, a big shame.
It is a shame.
So we could be providing. There's so many people that lack the education and stuff, and they really want to get it, but they don't have the means to get it. And then we have to bring in outsiders, or we have millions of unfilled jobs. In this country, really good paying jobs, unfilled, because we haven't educated our own people. That's just, in my books, dumb.
Dumb and a shame.
Right. Shame on us.
Shame on us. Yes.
All right,
yes.
Next slide.
Okay.
So, both of these things I lump together and call it our basic public investments, our BPI. So let's put a term around it. Let's create a nutshell. And again, we don't have to go back and resell, why we need, to spend more on this or more on that or invest more in this and that. Once people get that idea, then we can. And there's in a few things like we don't actually have to pay for these as much as we have to kickstart these, and then they pay for themselves over. Months, years, and decades and stuff. They'll end up creating profits for taxpayers and so on. So, all right, next slide. So, one of the points we want to make is just look at World War II or after World War II, and we invested heavily in all of these things: healthcare, education, infrastructure, research, safe communities, community development, and our safety nets. So we invested in these, and we were broke. At the time, we were coming out of a war, and we did deficit spending and so on to do that, but it paid off huge, for taxpayers, and it expanded the economy, created the most powerful, economic or economy in the world, through past investments that both Democrats and Republicans voted for. Now, Republicans have been a little slower, especially in certain areas, on and really holding things back, but they haven't been like now. It's just they want to cut everything, and they want to cut taxes on the rich, but they want to cut our basic public investments, and that's really the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Okay, next slide. So, and I don't think Democrats have really done a good job at explaining bottom-up economics. So I've created another little three-pointer here and say, okay, well, what is that? What does it mean? And when we so if you look at the policies and everything that Democrats do, it's that they haven't called it this in the past. Our basic public investments, our BPIs. It's that plus valuing all workers. They know that valuing all workers. That's a livable minimum wage. That's equal work for equal pay and workers' rights. And that makes more customers more money. It's good for the economy. It's not only good for the people, but it's good for the economy. And then it's also about a fair system. If we don't have a fair system, then then some people get away with whatever, and then others, and especially I think with Black people and so on, and the need for reparations is like it hasn't been a fair system, especially for Black people. So we need to fix that, and we do. It's going to create a lot more opportunities, not just for Black people. It's going to create a bigger economy that everybody will benefit from. Mm-hmm. Next slide. So valuing all workers, a little deeper dive on that. So it's a livable minimum wage. Why pay a livable wage? Well, if you don't, then then people are needing more services. Desperate people do desperate things. So all of us, are a little more in danger because of that. And it's just morally not right. That CEO needs the bathroom cleaned, and that person doing that work should have the dignity and stuff that a livable wage brings. And then equal work for equal pay, or equal pay for equal work. That basically a woman, and then there's also there's a racial issue here too. Black people, statistically don't make as much as white people, in the same job, and so that needs to get fixed. And then there's workers' rights. Everything from child labor laws to unions and all of that kind of stuff. All of those things have valued or pushed up wages and helped create the middle class. And we've been, the Republicans have really been in the way. Republicans say we need to get government out of the way. Actually, we just need to get the Republicans out of the way, the GOP out of the way, and then people's wages will go up because the Democrats will vote for that. And when Tamara's in the Senate, she's going to help, get the livable wage and make sure women and people of color and stuff are on par. The laws are set up so that it's fair. That somebody doing the same job, they get the same pay and so on. And then also workers' rights. And so these let me go on a couple more points here. On the right slide. So, it's driving up the wage of people that have a lot of immediate needs, and they tend to spend quickly. That speeds up the economy, and it triggers businesses higher in investing. So it has these multiplier effects. So this is really, it's really such a good thing for the economy, and it's not, and it's so morally right to do, and it's so immorally wrong, or it's morally wrong to not pay people a livable wage or above. So that's where we want to get. All right, next slide. So a fair system now, it creates opportunities for people and businesses and so on, and also increasing fairness basically has positive results for people, families, and and businesses and so on. And then also decreasing, if we do things that decreases fairness, guess what? That makes more people suffer, and our businesses not start, and it just really creates a tougher. So it's not like a binary system, like you do the right thing, everything is good, and do the wrong thing. It's kind of it's kind of a continuum. So the more right things you do here, the better more people will be, and so we need to contribute, we need to build on what we've done in the past, not get away from what we've done in the past. And that's what the GOP's been doing over the last 30 years, is kind of getting away from our principles, and that's where you've seen, income, extreme inequality really just taking off and everything. So we really need to reverse those trends. So a fair system is good for our people, businesses, and economy. Next slide. And then now, actually, a little side note to that, or if you want to back up one little thing here, is that the GOP really wants to make this about capitalism versus socialism, right? But it's really not. It's about rigged capitalism versus, to work for the few, versus enabled capitalism to work for all of us. So, it's just, Democrats are capitalists. Democrats are not trying to nationalize their industries, and take away people's businesses and property and so on. Democrats, are just basically trying to, they usually describe it in either in particular policies they want to do, or in terms of morality. It's the right thing to do for, or the implication is it's the right thing to do for people. But we need to really talk about it in the economic terms, because that's what the people that aren't voting for Democrats yet, this is how they think. So we need to show them that it's not just morally right, it's economically smart. And it's really economically stupid not to do these things. I mean, we know the lessons from the past. It's with the right way to describe it to the to most people, we can get a lot more people on board, and not have people voting against their best interests, thinking that they are voting for their best interests, but they really aren't.
And we're at the half-hour mark, and I wanted us to start this conversation, and I definitely look forward to you coming back. And I'm going to use this platform for as many weeks as we possibly can to continue to have this conversation, because we have to figure out how to get beyond the emotionalism of politics. Like, I had someone to tell me that I needed to play nice so that people would like me. So I want us to, and some of these questions about reparations, we may not ever reach people morally, but when we can start to speak their language economically, then maybe they can hear us with a different set of ears, and we can get a different reception and take the conversation further. So I want to thank you. I wanted to use this time tonight, like I said, to have this kind of conversation, and to use my Wednesdays moving forward to educate and to enlighten, and let's have these conversations beyond how we feel.
All right, and then people want to see the full videos. They're two little short videos, a 5-minute, a 6-minute video. Go to votereducationproject.com and then how bottom-up economics works is basically HBUEW. Tomorrow, I guess you'll put the link up, or when you send out the thing, put the link up for people, and they can go right to those videos, and get a little background, because that's the way we need to talk to people that aren't voting for Democrats as of yet.
Yeah. So thank you. And I wanted to give a brief little campaign update. I am still stomping, running around, doing a lot of events. If you haven't signed up to volunteer, please do. We have our next volunteer conference call this Saturday from 1 to 1:30, just to kind of give you a brief overview of how to do phone banking with me. That is a conference call this Saturday at 1. Make sure you go to the website, tamaraforgeorgia.com, and sign up to volunteer. If you haven't already made a donation, I know Christmas was just around the corner, and a lot of people are recovering from the holidays. So I push back on the asking for contributions, but trust me, I still need them. And I need all the support I can get. So if you haven't gone to the website to volunteer and or donate, please do. And I'm going to have Mr. Karl back next Wednesday, right here at 8 o'clock Eastern. And we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to continue to talk through these slides, and we're going to continue to educate ourselves beyond the emotional conversations we tend to have. We need to talk dollars and cents, not get out of our emotions. Thank you, Karl.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
See you next Wednesday.
Till then.
Y'all, he has a personality like David.
There you go.
See you next week, Karl. Thank you.